Welcome to Chiropractic Roots, the official podcast of the Kansas Chiropractic Association. Here we explore the stories, struggles, and successes of chiropractors across the Sunflower State. In each episode, we interview Kansas DCs to learn how their chiropractic journey began, how their practices took shape, and what lessons they've learned along the way. Whether you're a seasoned professional, a student, or simply chiropractic curious, you're in the right place to hear from the roots of the profession. I'm Dr. Travis Oller, Executive Director of the Kansas Chiropractic Association, the nation's first chiropractic association. Let's get adjusted. Our guest today is Dr. Mark Hatesohl. Dr. Hatesohl, welcome to Chiropractic Roots, and please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in Manhattan in practice for a little over 41 years. I'm married with two adult daughters who both live in Kansas City. I grew up in a little town called Lynn, 20 miles north of Clay Center in north central Kansas, and went to chiropractic school down in Kansas City at Cleveland and graduated in September of 1983. And so it'll be 42 years this fall. It seems like it's gone fast and it's gone slow, but it's sure gone by.
Good. So what was your first experience with chiropractic?
Well, I remember when we were kids, my dad would throw all of us, the whole family, in the car, and we would go down and see Dr. Morton Nickel in Clay Center. And the crazy thing was, I know it was in the evening because it was 6:30 or 7 o'clock by the time we got there. My folks were school teachers, but he every now and then we'd go down there and he'd adjust the whole family. And that would have been probably in 1968 when I was 7 or 8 years old. It was been my first experience with chiropractic. And then when I went to, after I was in high school sometime, I ended up kind of wrecking my motorcycle a little bit and got a stiff neck. And I ended up going to see a chiropractor up by Washington outside of in Morrowville up there. And he's really the one that encouraged me to go to chiropractic school.
So you went to Cleveland. You told us when you graduated. Do you know how much it cost to go and how you paid for it?
Yeah, the first check for tuition was $875 a trimester. I remember when I graduated, my last check was for like $1,575 a semester for that last trimester that I did. But initially, I had saved up some money from summer jobs, working on the farm, working at a grain elevator, working for a dairy farmer. And then when we were younger, we had a paper route, but we didn't save much of that money. But I paid for it for the first couple of years with the money I had. And then my folks also helped out for the first couple of years. And then the last year, all of my buddies had been getting student loans, and I didn't feel it was right to keep putting this burden on my folks to pay for college when, as an adult, I could get some student loans. And so the last year or year and a half, I ended up getting student loans, which totaled about $15,000 at the time, which is not much compared to what people are getting out of school with now. But at least I felt like I was kind of manning up and contributing to my own education and not putting all that burden on my folks, because there was 3 of us in college at the same time back in those days. My older brother was at KU Med School. My other brother had been at K-State for 6 years. And so and my younger brother was just starting. And so I figured, yeah, they'd helped out enough. I thought I could pull my weight the rest of the way across the line there.
Tell me about the first office you worked in.
When I graduated from Cleveland in September of '83, I had seen on the bulletin board that there's a doctor in Topeka that was looking for an associate, and it was Dr. Bayer, Doug Bayer, who also did acupuncture. And I had taken Dr. Amaro's acupuncture class the summer of '82, I believe. And so I was curious about trying to get more experience and knowledge and practice with the acupuncture. So I took the job with Dr. Bayer, and I stayed there till April of '84. And at that point, I was looking to try to do something else, and I went back, took a day off, and went back to Cleveland to their bulletin board of potential job offerings. And I saw that there was a practice for sale in Manhattan. And there was a doctor there that had a heart attack and had been closed for about 6 weeks and was starting to pack up his equipment in hopes that he could put it in storage, get better from his heart attack, and then maybe practice again sometime. The crazy thing was, I was there on a Monday, and while I was there, a patient called, and it was a workers' comp guy. And I remember the the doctor's wife who worked for him as a receptionist covered up the phone and said, "It's a workers' compensation patient. We should really try to schedule him if you're gonna take this." And it's like, so I kind of had to decide in 10 seconds if I wanted to sort of take the practice so that I could get this work comp patient to get things started. And it's like, sure, let's go ahead and schedule him. And so I scheduled him later that day, stayed around, and then I really started working in that office toward the end of the week. Then sometime they started calling some of their old patients that had been regulars, and then we kind of got things going that way.
So how did you market your practice when you first opened up, when you first bought that one?
Well, back when I first got here, being that I was only 23 years old back then, I with Kansas State University and all these college students there, I ran an ad, a couple of small ads in the student newspaper, the Collegian, and back then, a lot of the health insurance for the college kids was pretty good, and so the college kids could come in with their health insurance. They didn't have to pay very much, and so I was kind of promoting myself to the college students. The problem is when you start in April, come middle of the May, back those days in '84, all of the college students left town, and it's like, where did everybody go? And the summer was kind of slow that way, and then middle of August shows up, and everybody comes back to town. It's like, okay, there they are. And so once I kind of got used to that idea, it was I could deal with it and think with it. And over the years, there's been a lot less of a dramatic change when the students come and go, and more students stay year round than they used to. But marketed to the students, and then my accountant hooked me up with a kind of a singles group at the time, and so I got a chance to go out socially and met them, and a lot of them were older than me. They were older single people. But I met some people there who introduced me to some people, and I got involved with the community, with the Chamber of Commerce, started going to events, and just sort of started a kind of a personal networking effort there.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a mentor early in your career?
After I left Dr. Bayer's office, and whatever advice and input he gave me, which was good, I really didn't. And so I ended up working with numerous kind of practice management people. And the problem with that is they're all fairly expensive. And a lot of times they'd have ideas that I didn't really want to implement. And so I took a few good ideas away from that, but didn't really implement a lot of the stuff like they suggested. And so I didn't really have a particular one, just bits and pieces from Dr. Fernandez from the old people. Dr. Singer had a few good ideas back then. And then the one guy from up by Lincoln or Omaha, I can't even think of his name anymore. Nobody specifically that I talked to on a regular basis, just a few of the business consultants that I dabbled with for about 10 years before I decided they were all kind of promoting the same ideas. I just needed to do what I knew I needed to do, and just kind of take ownership and accept responsibility and quit putting off the important stuff that makes a difference.
How long were you in practice before you felt like you really had it under control? You knew what you were doing?
Well, that little office I started out in was like 350 square feet, and the rent was about $325 a month. So I had a low overhead operation. So I didn't have much at risk. After 2 years, I moved into a new office, about 1,500 square feet and about $2,000 a month rent at the time or so. And so I knew I needed to kind of get busy. And it was probably, I don't know, 10 years or so before I kind of really felt like I had a bit of a grip on stuff. And really, I've been in practice 42 years. And the thing is, I feel like I kind of really hit my stride just in the last 5 to 7 years or so. It's in the sense of you see enough stuff, and then your confidence is such a huge part of being successful in practice. You're not going to be able to help everybody, but you do the best you can for everybody, and then you don't. If a person doesn't get better, it's not always your fault. It's a lot of times it's their lifestyle. They waited too long, and once you kind of know that you're doing your best and to have that confidence, the practice is just, it's a lot easier, and you're kind of willing to take on any and all comers as far as patients wise, knowing that you may not be able to help them, but you know you're going to, after X number of years of experience, you should be able to help them some, or at least give them some kind of hope that you know what you're doing.
Speaking of that, how do you approach building trust with your patients and then leading that into patient retention?
The key is you got to be real. You can't, and yeah, and that's one of my concerns with some of the practice management things. They try to take somebody else's approach and apply it to everybody, and if it's not their personality, then they struggle and then they seem phony. I think my big benefit that I've developed over the years for helping maintain patients and develop practice is being a real person, just listening to the person, doing what's best for them, looking them in the eye so that they know that you're not bull crapping them and stuff. It's being a real person. If you're a reasonable person, a normal person, you dress normal, you look normal, you act normal, you talk normal, and you're a real person, people will attach to that, because it's fairly uncommon in the world these days, because everybody's trying to scam you or get a buck or something, or they're being phony. And so if you can be real, that makes all the difference for people.
Yeah, that seems to be a common response to that question I'm seeing is authenticity is more important than just about anything else. Helps you build that connection there. So the next question is about being involved in your community, and I know you've done a lot. But how did you stay involved in your community?
Years ago, one of my best friends was an attorney, and he was politically active on some state representative races. And so he used to drag me along to different fundraisers for state representative races, and occasionally a governor, or senator, or state or a U.S. representative fundraiser. And so I would go to those, and then he would introduce me, or I would get a chance to meet the candidate. And I got to a point where it's like, most of these people are nothing special. And so a lot of times the average person puts the governor and the senators way up here on some kind of a pedestal, and they're just as insecure as the rest of us so much of the time. And so I got to a point where it's like, I think I could maybe do that sometime. These guys are nothing special. And so at some point, one of the guys I knew was mayor of the city, and he appointed me to an advisory board for the city for social services. And so I kind of got my foot wet on how some of the government things worked. And then in 2001, my dad suddenly passed away in an accident. And I remember there was like, for 4 hours, there was a line outside the door of his visitation. And it's like, because he was a teacher for 40 years, and he was always friendly and knew everybody and tried to make people smile and stuff. And so it's like, it's like, I want that. When I die, I want there to be a 4-hour line outside the door. And so I decided I needed to start kind of reaching out and being more of whatever that meant, having more impact in every part of my life there. And so I decided to run for the city commission, and I ended up winning a 2-year term back in 2003. And then I ran again in 2005 and won a 4-year term. And if you win a 4-year term, then you get into the mayor rotation. And so I was mayor from April of 08 to April of 09. Now, the problem is when you're running the first time, or you haven't been on there very long, you don't have any votes that you've done to make anybody mad, because you're just new. And after a few years, especially on rezonings and a few things like that, or people don't think you're cutting taxes enough, or you're spending too much, people will get mad, and some of your support will dry up. And so in the 2009, after being mayor and doing a good job, I thought, I ended up losing the reelection. And so then I was off the commission for 10 years, which was good, because my younger daughter was involved in all kinds of activities. And it was one of those, Daddy, you got to come watch me fill in the blank. And so I did that for 10 years. And then when she went off to college, I decided, darn it, I'm going to run again. and go out on my own terms instead of getting voted out of office. And so I ran in 2019, won a 4-year term, was mayor 2023. Should have just walked off into the sunset, but decided to run again. Didn't get reelected again. So I walked off. So I still didn't go out on my terms, but it was a really great experience. And I really met a lot of people. And the thing is, Manhattan's kind of a split community, kind of half conservative, half not conservative. And so it's really hard to make, it's hard for people to kind of stay elected over here because there's not much of a margin. Your people will get you 1 year and then you'll make some of them mad. And so the next year, people will get voted out again. But it was, for when it comes to my practice, it's like I met so many people from being on the commission, it made up for the people that got mad at me because I was on the commission making decisions they didn't agree with. And so you kind of remember the ones that quit coming in because you didn't vote for a smoking ordinance or something, but then you get more people because you stood up for something else. And so they like that and then they want to try to support you. But that was one thing. And the other big thing after my dad passed away is I decided to get more involved with my church. And so since 2002, I've either been president, vice president, elder, head elder, director of stewardship, building committee chairman, capital campaign committee chairman, or something for the last 23, 24 years at my church. And so then that end up getting quite a few people, patients who come in who I've known from church and such like that too. So that's not why anybody goes to church, but it is a side benefit of just being around and meeting people. It's a good way to help kind of build your practice that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your network really grows the more involved you are, and it really does help your practice grow with it.
And that's one of the things that I would meet people, and it's like, okay, do I know you from the chamber, from church, from business? Are you currently a patient? It's like that was part of the problem. Is I was involved with so many areas. I would recognize the face, but I couldn't figure out exactly where I knew them from. And so that's one of the things that hopefully you'll have a problem with sometime is meeting so many people. You can't always remember who or where they are, but it usually doesn't take much for it to come back to you.
How do you think chiropractic has changed since you first started in practice?
Well, the obvious things are is the managed care things and the big obviously back in the old days, whatever you sort of billed the insurance is what the insurance would pay for the most part. You didn't have all these caps and limits and obviously that's been the biggest business change of things since chiropractic school days. They've always talked about we're this close to sort of hitting the critical mass to where everybody is going to all go to the chiropractor because we've reached the 10% or 15% magic mark, that the 100th monkey thing, or once you have a certain number of people do it, then everybody's going to start doing it. And so after 40 some years, I'm still kind of waiting for that point to where everybody gets it and realizes they need to get chiropractic care on some kind of a regular basis. And so that's one thing that hasn't changed, is the fact that there's still so many people don't take advantage of chiropractic care and still need to know about it. But I know back in the 50s and 60s before insurance, everybody just paid cash. And it seems like it's kind of tends to be going back that way, because between high deductibles, high copays, half the people are kind of paying out of their own pocket anyway again. So in some ways, that's gone full cycle. Yeah, at least and back in the old days with the AMA lawsuit, where there's the medical collusion to keep chiropractic down. Yeah, most of the newer doctors are kind of generally okay with chiropractors. They're not going to necessarily refer a bunch of patients, but they're not going to badmouth you to the common patients and stuff like that they probably used to, or we heard stories about they used to. So there's generally more and better acceptance all the time.
What do you wish you knew when you first started practice?
I remember there was when I came out of school, I was very tentative because there's a certain amount of requirements you have to graduate and get out of school, and I just kind of finally got my last couple of requirements the day before graduation or so. So I wasn't like I was super busy during my student clinic thing. So I came out and I was still fairly unsure of myself on things. And I remember it was a few years into practice that I ended up having a patient that came in who had been in a head-on car accident. Each of them were going 50 mile an hour. Somebody got left of center, and it's like, if a head-on car accident at 50 mile an hour with another 50 mile an hour car didn't break this woman's neck, there's probably nothing I'm going to do that can approach the force that she already endured with that. And the thing is that's one of the things that I wish I would have kind of learned sooner, is that generally people are pretty resilient and such. And so even if they've had stuff done to them, you can still do gentle chiropractic. Obviously, you're not going to do a running, jumping side posture adjustment on a low back fusion case, but yeah, light, easy stuff a lot of times is just what they need. And so I think I would have, I wish I would have learned sooner to accept more cases that I probably turned down thinking I couldn't do anything about. Because even like nowadays, yeah, people come in with some kind of a random shoulder pain, and it's not really from their shoulder, it's a neck thing, and you adjust their neck and upper back, and their shoulder thing goes away. Whereas maybe at one point years ago, it's like, well, there's nothing really wrong with your shoulder. I'm not sure if I can help you. It's like, no, that's not the case. It's like, yeah, and I learned, yeah, everybody can benefit to some degree from an adjustment, whether it solves their particular issue they showed up on your doorstep with, or whether it just improves some other part of their life. That's probably a better answer to what really is different. What I wish I'd known sooner is that, yeah, everybody will benefit to some degree from an adjustment, you know, whether or not it's their main chief complaint or just some other aspect of their life. They'll sleep better, their digestion work better, they'll be less complaining or something. That would probably be it.
Yeah, it's amazing the different things that patients will, after they've been under care for a while, realize get better with chiropractic care. I had a
Yeah.
patient years ago that she knew it was time to get adjusted because her kids said she was cranky.
Well, and I've got this thing on my bulletin board. There's like 5 symptoms of a spinal misalignment in your neck. And before you get to neck pain and headaches, there's fatigue, irritability, can't sleep, insomnia. And then eventually, when it gets bad enough and been going on long enough, it's neck pain and headaches. And so that whole, yeah, you show that to people, it's like, oh yeah, I've been irritable, can't sleep, I'm tired all the time. It's like, and yeah, your neck pain and your headaches is the last thing to show up on something like this.
I'm doing these interviews with doctors that have been in practice for a while, and I asked this very uncomfortable question. Do you have an exit strategy?
I used to, and the extra strategy was find a young doctor, have them come in, work with me. The traditional exit strategy of having some young doctor come in, work with us for a couple of years, figure out how I kind of do things, figure out how they can do their own thing, and then switch places. I work 2 days a week. They're here 5 days a week for a few years, and then I eventually fade off and to the sunset. I don't know. The problem is I'm 64 and change, and I've been in practice 40 years, and there's a significant difference between today's Gen Z young people getting out of chiropractic. I've heard there is, and I've talked to other people, and to some degree, and some people fall into that category, that a lot of people don't want to have the responsibility of being the owner. They want to show up, work their 40 hours or so, preferably 32, get their paycheck, go home, and not have to have any of the responsibility of hiring, firing, making sure the computer system's working, HIPAA compliance, all that stuff. And so talking with other doctors, the ones that I've talked to aren't having great luck finding entrepreneur spirited new graduates that want to be their own boss or take over and be the boss. That doesn't mean they're not out there. And I can't say that I've been looking hard, but I'm to the point now where I figure I'm going to keep working full time until I'm 67 or so, and then maybe cut back to 3 days a week. My friend Dr. Kortner has been working 3 days a week for a few years, and he's a few years older than I am, and he says he sees just as many people 3 days a week as he did 5. So there's no reason not to cut back and have a little bit more spare time. But yeah, I'll probably cut back to 3 days a week, and then at some point maybe um, try to maybe even move my little setup into some other chiropractor's office, sell my office, find some other chiropractor that may have a room a couple of days a week. I do quite a few CDL physicals, and so that's been a pretty lucrative business for me over here. And so I don't want to necessarily give that up because that does not strain my spine whatsoever, doing physicals versus wrestling 300-pound football players, farmers, and old people and stuff. And so the strategy now is to I will keep an eye out. I figured if the Lord wants some young whippersnapper to take over my practice, I'll get one. If not, I'm emotionally prepared to the idea of just cutting back hours and keep working. My people tell me it's like, don't quit and retire unless you got something significant to do. If you're healthy, you might as well keep working, cut back on your hours if you want, but stop putting off things. And that's our new mantra at our house. It's like, quit putting off stuff. We just got back from a 12-day trip to Italy a couple of weeks ago. There's one thing off the bucket list. And so put Alaska on there for next year, maybe, or start doing those things, because advisor people will always tell you, it's like, you got to take a vacation. Your patients will still be there when you get back. And I've always been unwilling to go more than 5 or 6 days. But this 12-day deal, it turned out I was busy before I left, busy after I got back, and it really worked out fine. So there's no reason not to start doing those things. Nobody's guaranteed a long, healthy retirement. And that's, as sooner people figure that out and start doing the stuff they've always wanted to do, just do your stuff and then come back and make up the money that you spent on that trip. And so you can take another one and then just keep working until you have something. I don't have any grandkids to go to their activities yet. So when that happens, maybe I'll change my mind. But keep working for now, cut back a little bit, stop putting off stuff.
For a profession that is so focused on taking care of people, we frequently do a bad job of taking care of ourselves. And part of that is taking a vacation when you need a vacation. It should be planned out. I think every chiropractor should at least take a full week off every year, regardless of where you are in practice. The longer you've been in practice, maybe you take more. But just this whole, we're going to push it off to a retirement thing that so many of us do, it's not healthy.
No, and the people, it's like, well, yeah, you can't afford not to take a vacation, because I figured out years ago when the kids still lived at home, we would try to take a couple of 5 to 7 day trips together. And the thing is that not everybody, some other people maybe do better at it than I do, but I would, after about 3 or 4 months, my attitude gets a little stinky, so to speak, and I need to get away for a while. And even if it's a long weekend to Kansas City, to Wichita, or some Ozarks or something, just get out of your space, go someplace different, get your head clear, and then you can come back and you'll have a better attitude, and that's better for business. And yeah, that's the thing that, between just the fact that you're not getting any rest from the stress of running day-to-day stuff, you have the potential of sort of getting sour on what you're doing because you're not getting the break from it that you need to. And so I've always found that any vacation I take pays for itself, based on the fact that I come back, I'm refreshed, and people pick up on the fact that you're glad to be there again, as opposed to kind of almost resenting the fact that you have to show up. And so that's vital. You need to learn that. You need to do it and get away.
In the same vein, you've been in practice more than 40 years. You've raised 2 kids. You've been politically active, both state and local level. You've been active in the KCA. You've done a lot outside of practice as well as a lot in practice. How do you maintain that balance between your work life and your home life so that you don't get drugged down too much?
I didn't do a great job of that when my first term on the commission, because the thing is that when I had to be out of the office for commission stuff, then when my older daughter had a softball game, it's like, well, I can't be out of the office more to go watch you play softball because I've been out of the office for commission stuff. And so I didn't balance that terribly well to start with. And it was during that first time during the commission, I'm not sure if everybody knows that, but my wife and I got divorced. There was no infidelity. It was stress. family, money, all these things that will strain a marriage. But after 6 weeks, we got back together because we realized there was no reason for us to get divorced. We were just frustrated with our situation. And once we decided, let's make this work. And then I started, balancing out things a little bit more. I would make sure I made time to go to the kids' activities, hunt some of the commission things that weren't important. It's just a matter of, you cannot get too lopsided with the practice being your only focus. And luckily now for the last few years, my wife has helped out in the office. She still has a day job, but she can do that on her laptop in between checking in patients and making appointments. And so you've got to, if you're married, you got to have, your spouse has to be 100% on board with things. That doesn't mean they got to work in the office. They just mean they have to, both, you got to support them, and then they have to support you and make sure that you're both getting what you need to be able to be successful in your own careers, whatever that might be.
The heavy questions are done. On to two fun ones. First one, if you weren't a chiropractor, what would have you done instead?
Well, when I started college, they were telling the smart kids to go into engineering and accounting. Now, I never met an engineer, didn't know what they did, but I took calculus and chemistry and stuff like that to start with, along with accounting 1 and econ. And then after the first semester, they were saying, oh, petroleum engineering is the thing. And so I switched to geology and a couple other things. And then it was after my freshman year that I decided to go to chiropractic school, and I switched to all the biology and organic chem classes. So nowadays, when I had a triple bypass surgery 3 years ago, and while I was recovering, I went to Indeed.com and punched in jobs in my area, especially healthcare type stuff. And I quickly realized I'm not qualified to do anything other than be a chiropractor, because you either need a nursing degree for some of this or a bachelor's in business, something for that, which I don't have. I'm sure I could do a bunch of those things if I given the opportunity and a little bit of a learning situation there. I don't know. I keep thinking that I do a lot of these commercial driver's license physicals. I wonder sometimes, I sometimes think being an over-the-road trucker might be interesting until you have 40-mile-an-hour side winds, or you got to drive through Chicago or New York driving one of those things, at which time it would be a terrible idea. I don't really know. I used to think that maybe if I could get like an assistant city manager job where you don't have to have the credentials to be the city manager. You just need to kind of know how city government works and how different program departments and stuff work. I thought that maybe that might be something I'd be interested in. But after being my own boss for 41 and a half years, it's like, I don't know if I'd do well with a boss. And so probably whatever I'd have to do, it would have to be either a no boss deal, something I'm kind of doing on my own, because I just don't think I would resist too much supervision, I think.
Last one is there a fun fact that your patients might be surprised to learn about you?
Sometimes people are surprised to find out I like riding. I have a Harley Davidson motorcycle. I've had one for about 15 to 18 years now. Some of them might be surprised that I'm a biker dude, it's no big surprise that a doctor likes to play golf or anything like that. My big three hobbies are golf, traveling, and motorcycling. I remember years ago I had somebody asked us like, what would be your dream job or something? I wish if I was a better singer, I would like to be a lounge singer or something, sit around and sing songs. Because I like karaoke. I'm no good. I'm not that good. I'm not very good. If I've had a few beers, which is what it takes to karaoke, I think I'm a good singer. But I wish if I was a good singer, I would like to do more some kind of performing to some level. There's nothing big, but I have to be a better singer, and I need to take voice lessons. And if I'm ever going to try to make my voice better, I need to get started with it, because I know as you get older, your voice don't get better usually. Because I'm not afraid to be sort of out there in front and doing stuff. And so a lot of people are just so afraid to step out and and sort of standing in front of people, and no matter what it might be. And so I haven't had much problem with that since my Dale Carnegie course back in 1984. But yeah, I ain't going to punish people by being a lounge singer and being bad at it. But if I could become a better singer, I would like to do that on some kind of a hobby basis.
Well, I look forward to your first performance. So, Dr. Hatesohl, thank you for joining us today on Chiropractic Roots. Before we end today, though, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, I just it's been a good run. I really enjoyed um, being my own boss, being a chiropractor, helping people like that. It's been a great career for me. It's so many opportunities have opened up the door. I've been open meeting people and going places and doing things, and so it's been a great run. I've really enjoyed it.
Wonderful. Thank you again for being with us today.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Chiropractic Roots, brought to you by the Kansas Chiropractic Association. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow chiropractor or student. To learn more about the KCA and our mission to support chiropractic in Kansas, visit kansaschiro.com. Until next time, stay grounded, stay growing, and keep adjusting.